on to this story about Ukraine. I don't know if you guys have heard the news, but it appears that the Biden administration is finally admitting that Ukraine can't win. This is a huge story coming from Politico. Oh my God. Oh my God. The Biden administration is quietly shifting its strategy in Ukraine. Let's go on here. Oh, Zelensky, you thought you had a friend. Say he's just a friend. Say he's just a friend. Oh, baby, you. With the U.S. and European aid to Ukraine now in serious jeopardy, the Biden administration and European officials are quietly shifting their focus from supporting Ukraine's goal of total victory over Russia to improving its position in an eventual negotiation to end the war. Oh, folks, this is embarrassing. Embarrassing for Zelensky and for the Biden administration. This is a hot mess. Such a negotiation would likely mean giving up parts of Ukraine to Russia. Isn't this what we predicted? This is what we predicted. Those of us at RBN, we predicted this a year ago, 1 year ago, that this would be the case. The White House and the Pentagon publicly insist there is no official change in administration policy, that they still support Ukraine's aim of forcing Russia's military completely out of the country. But along with the Ukrainians themselves, U.S. and European officials are now discussing the redeployment of Kyiv's forces away from the Ukrainian President Zelensky's most failed counteroffensive into a stronger defensive position against Russian forces in the east, according to the administration official and the European diplomat, and confirmed by a senior administration official. This effort has also involved bolstering air defense systems and building fortification, razor wire obstruction, and anti-tank obstacles and ditches along Ukraine's northern border with Belarus, these officials say. In addition, the Biden administration is focused on rapidly resurrecting Ukraine's own defense industry to supply the desperately needed weaponry the U.S. Congress is balking at replacing. Listen to this part. We're going to highlight this one because this is the kicker. The administration official told Politico magazine this week that much of this strategic shift to defense is aimed at shoring up Ukraine's position in any future negotiation. That's been our theory of the case throughout. The only way this war ends ultimately is through negotiation, said the official, a White House spokesperson who has given anonymity because they are not authorized to speak on the record. You guys hear this? They're finally admitting it. That has been our theory of the case throughout. The only way this war ends ultimately is through negotiation. Boom. Think about all the billions of aid that the U.S. government has sent to Ukraine over the past year and a half, knowing from the very get-go that they had no chance of defeating Russia. All that money went out the door. We want Ukraine to have the strongest hand possible when that comes. The spokesperson emphasized, however, that no talks are planned yet and that Ukrainian forces are still on the offensive in places and continue to kill and wound thousands of Russian troops. We want them to be in a stronger position to hold their territory. It's not that we're discouraging them from launching any new offensive, the spokesperson said. This spokesperson who doesn't even want to give their name because they're afraid. For Biden, navigating the nearly 2-year-old war in the middle of a tough election campaign with former President Donald Trump and other Republican candidates openly mocking his efforts will prove tricky at best, as it helps Ukraine shift to a more defensive posture. The Biden administration can't appear to be handing the advantage to Putin after insisting since the war began in February 2022 that it stands fully behind Zelensky's pledge of victory over Moscow. Well, they should have never given that pledge in the first place. They knew from day one that they would not win. They knew this. Again, this is a proxy war. It was instigated by NATO. And you have to understand, again, when we talk about negotiations, let's all remember Russia wanted to negotiate from the very get-go, wanted to negotiate. Zelensky did not. That's why we're here. It goes on to say here, those discussions about peace talks are starting, but the administration can't back down publicly because of the political risk to Biden. Let me highlight this one for you. You guys see, it's all theater. Those discussions about peace talks are starting, but the administration can't back down publicly because of the political risk to Joe Biden. This is all theater. Billions of dollars just went out the door. I wonder if they figured out who this person was that gave this information and if they'll still have a job by the end of this year. In an interview on December 21st, John Kirby, head of strategic communications at the National Security Council, said that with Washington nearing the end of our ability to provide military assistance to the Ukrainians because Republicans have blocked Biden's request for roughly $60 billion more in aid, the Biden administration is very focused on helping them on offense and defense. Let me debunk something here that John Kirby said. John Kirby said that Republicans blocked Biden's request for roughly $60 billion more in aid. Didn't Joe Biden go around Congress to give aid to Israel? Didn't Joe Biden just do that? So the same way that Joe Biden can go around Congress to give aid to Israel, Joe Biden can go around Congress to give aid to Ukraine. So this fits the theater, because they have to get the Democrat voters to believe that the reason why they can't give aid to Ukraine is because of the Republican Party. And yes, there are Republican congressmen and women who will not support this via votes. But the same way he has gone around them for Israel is the same way he could go around them for Ukraine. But he's not doing that because he's trying to, again, convince you that the Republican Party is far worse and they're blocking Joe Biden from doing things. You see, they think that we're asleep. They think that people aren't paying attention. Knock, knock. Didn't we just see you go around Congress and give money to Israel? There it is. There it is. We are having literally daily conversations with the Ukrainians about the battlefield, about what their needs are and their intentions, Kirby said. But he added, I'm not going to telegraph to the Russians what the Ukrainian strategy is in the coming months. So there you have it, folks. They are finally admitting that Ukraine can't win. My comrade Nick from RBN had something to say about all of this possibility of a peace deal. Let's hear what Nick said. He's highlighting this article from Aaron Mate, which says Ukraine's top negotiator confirms US-UK sabotage peace deal with Russia. Listen to this.
We have another source that describes how the United States and UK prevented a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine. Ukraine's top negotiator explained that last spring in Istanbul, Vladimir Putin and Zelensky was ready to sign a peace agreement. Then the deal stalled. So let me get this straight. The message that we was fed in the West is that Putin is a madman and is a waste of time to try to negotiate with him in good faith. The fact that we have the United States and UK that was the ones blocking peace deals completely destroys that narrative.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it was the United States, and of course, the UK tends to follow the US lead, and the UK choosing to block the peace deal. Well. Again, all of this could have been prevented. All of this could have been prevented. The US wanted another war. They wanted another war. This makes Biden look so bad.
Now Ukraine is in a worse position than they was last spring, and they lost hundreds of thousands of men. And what exactly did they accomplish by rejecting this peace deal last year? Oh yeah, I forgot. Record profit for weapon manufacturers. Yes, that's right. Our ruling class, Joe Biden in the UK, they sacrificed an entire generation of Ukrainians for record stock profits and to very slightly weaken Russia. Now the Biden administration is quietly shifting their position after claiming that the end goal will be driving all of Russia out of Ukraine. Now the Biden administration is focusing on more of a defensive posture, and they want Ukraine to maintain the territories that they already have. Do you know how they would have accomplished that, Joe Biden? Maybe if you would have accepted the peace deal that was offered last year, that would have been possible.
That's right. So you see, the American people, I hope people remember this come next year when it's time to vote in November, because the thing is, Joe Biden wasted billions and billions of dollars, federal dollars, to fund Ukraine, knowing damn well from the very get-go, there was a peace deal from the very beginning that was possible. So the United States government and the UK that just followed behind the US like just a little sad little puppy dog, they are the ones that actually allowed this war to escalate to the point that it got to in the first damn place. All the money that went out the door, I call that money laundering. But we've been told over and over again that Russia was the bad guy. We've been told over and over again that Vladimir Putin is such an evil maniac of a person. And there's criticism to be had for Vladimir Putin. But the point is, our media and the US government and the State Department were lying from day one. From day one. But the thing is, when people pointed this out early on, they were called Putin puppets. They were called traitors, as if Ukraine is a part of the United States. All of this stuff, everything is coming out. And I told you as time went by, more and more of this information would be released.
And I really hope that Taiwan has their head screwed on straight. And they really believe the United States had their best interests at heart, they're going to end up like the Ukrainians.
Yep. So there it is, folks. That was Nick giving a bit there. He does those snippets there for Hotspot. But that is a very, very, very interesting piece there. So this is embarrassing. This is embarrassing for the Biden administration. But folks, there were some folks in independent media that did try to warn people way ahead of the game. Mint Press News, The Gray Zone, Antiwar.com. Garland Nixon tried to warn people. Scott Ritter's been talking about this since day one. A lot of people tried to tell you, but no, all those people were smeared. Let's go to some of the comments here. Oh, I'm just making sure I'm not touching the same ones here. Okay, here we go. Thank you for the super chat. Polis, I disagree with your Ukraine stance. How would you feel if Canada invaded the US and committed genocide? Would you support giving up your land like what? I recommend, Polis, that you go back and start with the history. And one of the things that I've said on this show is that NATO actually pushed this from the get-go. You have to remember the rule that happened after the fall of the Berlin Wall. NATO was not supposed to move further to the east, but it did. So there's that. A lot of people want to start with Vladimir Putin invaded, and they want to forget everything that happened before that. Same thing with Israel and Gaza. Everybody want to start with, but October 7th, but do you condemn Hamas? Everyone wants to start with that instead of what happened before that. So go look at the history. Thank you for the super chat, Jay. So thousands of lives lost, billions of money spent, major inflation, and 2 nuclear superpowers in a proxy battle for what? What a waste. Not a waste for the military industrial complex, though. Thank you for the super chat, Polis. Ukraine people voted for EU and NATO. Stop. I don't know what to tell you, Polis. I would say, again, go look at the history. Thank you for the super chat, David. If we track preventable deaths under any POTUS, does Biden beat Bush at this point already? Biden has had a couple of wars, East Palestine, Ohio, Hawaii, etc. That's a good question. I'd have to look those numbers up. Thank you for the super chat, Paul. I'm Irish. Brits screwed me. Bastards. I'm sorry about that, Paul. I'm sorry about that. Thank you for the super chat, Jay. Joe Biden took the most MIC money than all other presidential candidates in 2020. They got a huge return on their investment. Mm-hmm.